In this lesson, we're going to be dividing polynomials. So we're going to learn how to use long division, and then we're going to learn a new type of division called synthetic division. So first we're going to start with polynomial long division. In order to use this, we're just going to follow the same steps that we would if we were using long division on plain old numbers. So the first thing we want to do is identify what is our dividend and what is our divisor. So this expression here, x cubed plus 3x squared minus 4x minus 12, that is our dividend, and we're dividing it by x minus 2, which is our divisor. So when we're doing long division, whether we're doing it with numbers or polynomials, we always want to make sure we put our divisor on the outside. So we're going to put x minus 2 on the outside. And then our dividend will go inside, x cubed plus 3x squared minus 4x minus 12. Now when we're doing division, what we want to do is focus on the first terms of each the divisor and the dividend. So we're going to look at the first term on the outside and the first term on the inside. We have an x, and we want it to become an x cubed. So we can think of this two ways. We can think, does x go into x cubed, and then how many times? Or it might be a little bit easier with variables to say, what times x will give us x cubed? And that's going to be x squared. And we want to stack the x squared. So every term that's like, meaning the same exponent, we want to make sure that it's lined up perfectly straight. So we're going to put the x squared above the x squared in the dividend. And then, like with regular long division, once we put the number at the top, we're going to multiply it to the side. So we're going to multiply x squared times x, and that's going to give us x cubed. And then x squared times negative 2 is going to give us negative 2x squared. And then just with regular long division, we're going to subtract. Now here we just want to make sure that we're being careful because we want to distribute this negative to both terms. So we have x cubed minus x cubed, and that's going to cancel. And then we have 3x squared minus a negative 2x squared. So that becomes a plus 2x squared, and we get 5x squared. The next thing we do is we want to make sure that we have the same number of terms on the bottom as we do on the outside. So there's 2 terms on the outside, there's only 1 on the bottom, so what we're going to do is bring down the next term. And then we're just going to continue the process. So we have an x, we want a 5x squared, so what times x gives us 5x squared? And that's going to be 5x. Okay, and then again, we're just going to multiply the 5x from the top to the side, so that's going to be 5x squared minus 10x, and then we'll subtract it. 5x squared minus 5x squared is going to cancel out. Negative 4x minus a negative 10x, again that becomes plus 10x, so that's going to give us 6x. Okay, we need another term on the bottom, so we're going to bring down the next term. And then again, we're going to look at the first term of x and the first term of 6x. So what times x will give us 6x? That's going to be 6. And then again, we'll multiply the 6 from the top to the side. So 6 times x gives us 6x. 6 times negative 2 is going to give us negative 12. We're going to subtract. 6x minus 6x cancels. Negative 12 minus a negative 12 also cancels. So it goes in evenly and there is no remainder. So our answer here is x squared plus 5x plus 6. And we're going to look at another example. So again, we're going to set it up with the divisor on the outside. So 3x plus 4. And our dividend on the inside, 6x cubed plus 2x squared minus 11x plus 12. And again, we're going to look at the first terms, so 3x and 6x cubed. So what times 3x is going to give us 6x cubed? That's going to give us 2x squared. And again, we will multiply. Okay, so 2x squared times 3x is 6x cubed. 2x squared times 4 is 8x squared. And then we subtract. 6x cubed minus 6x cubed cancels. 2x squared minus 8x squared is negative 6x squared. Bring down the next term. Okay, look at the first term and the first term. So we have a 3x. We want a negative 6x squared. So what times 3x gives us negative 6x squared? That's going to be negative 2x. And then again, we'll multiply the negative 2x times the 3x, so that's negative 6x squared. Negative 2x times 4 is going to give us negative 8x, and then we subtract. So negative 6x squared minus a negative 6x squared will cancel out. Negative 11x minus a negative 8x is going to give us negative 3x. Bring down the next term. Okay, we have a 3x. We want a negative 3x. So what times 3x gives us negative 3x? That's negative 1. Again, multiply. So negative 1 times the 3x will give us negative 3x. Negative 1 times 4, negative 4. We'll subtract. Negative 3x minus a negative 3x cancels. 12 minus a negative 4, that becomes 16. So now we have a remainder. So the way we're going to write our remainder, since it's a positive 16, we're going to write plus. If it was negative 16, we would put minus. So plus, this number becomes our numerator, so 16 over, and then our divisor becomes our denominator, 3x plus 4. So here our answer is 2x squared minus 2x minus 1 plus 16 over 3x plus 4. Okay, so it's totally fine if it does not go in evenly. Okay, so now here's an example where we're dividing by a nonlinear. So just to go back real quick, this first example, we were dividing by a linear function, meaning a exponent that is a 1 on the x, and this had a coefficient of 1. Here we divided by a linear that had a coefficient of not 1, because it has a coefficient of 3. And now we're dividing by a nonlinear. So in this case, we're dividing by a quadratic. So we can divide pretty much by any degree. So we're going to set it up in a very similar way. The main thing that we want to pay attention to when we're setting up any division problem is that we need to have every term accounted for when it's written in standard form. So in the previous two problems, we didn't run into this problem, but now we do, so this is why I'm going to mention this now. So on the outside, we're still going to put this x squared plus 1, but instead of writing it as x squared plus 1, if we think about standard form, it goes from highest to lowest exponent, we're missing the x term. So if we have x squared, what comes after x squared would be x, and then after x is a constant. So we're missing the x term. So we have to put in a 0 as a placeholder anytime that a term is missing. So on the outside, instead of x squared plus 1, we're going to put x squared plus 0x plus 1. So anytime we're setting up any division problem, we have to check to see if it's missing a term. So now the dividend, I'm going to check that, and it goes from an exponent of 4, 3, 2, nothing. So it's missing the exponent of 1. So again, our x term is missing, so we need a placeholder of 0. So 3x to the 4th minus 4x cubed plus 12x squared plus 0x plus 5. Okay, and then we're just going to do the same thing. So we have x squared and 3x to the 4th. So what multiplies to x squared? That gives us 3x to the 4th. That's going to be 3x squared. Again, we'll take that number and we'll multiply it to the side. So we're going to get 3x squared times x squared, 3x to the 4th. 3x squared times 0 is 0. 3x squared times 1 is 3x squared. And we will subtract. Okay, the only really difference here is that we have 3 terms now instead of 2. So just distribute that negative to all 3 terms. So 3x to the 4th minus 3x to the 4th is going to cancel out. Negative 4x cubed minus 0 is negative 4x cubed. 12x squared minus 3x squared is going to give us 9x squared. Now we have 3 terms on the outside, so we have to have 3 terms on the bottom. So we're going to bring down our next term. Right, we should always have the same number of terms on the side and on the bottom. And then we go again. Right, we have x squared. We want a negative 4x squared. So what times x squared gives us 4x cubed? That's going to be a negative 4x. And then again, we're going to multiply the negative 4x times x squared. So negative 4x cubed Negative 4x times 0 is 0. Negative 4x times 1 is negative 4x. Again, we're going to subtract. So negative 4x cubed minus a negative 4x cubed, that's going to cancel out. 9x squared minus 0, that's going to give us 9x squared. 0 minus a negative 4x becomes positive 4x. And again, we need one more term on the bottom, so we'll bring down the 5. So we'll look at the x squared and the 9x squared. So we have an x squared, we want it to be a 9x squared, so we're going to need a 9. 9 times x squared is going to give us 9x squared. 9 times 0 is 0, and 9 times 1 is 9. We're going to subtract. 9x squared minus 9x squared is gone. 4x minus 0 is 4x. 5 minus 9 is negative 4. So this is our remainder. So we're going to tack on a plus sign since it's a positive 4x. And we're going to do 4x minus 4 over our divisor of x squared plus 1. So when you're writing your remainder, you do not need to include the 0x as the placeholder. You can if you would like to, but you don't need to.